Okay, with that, I would like to call the business meeting for the Great Lakes Planetarium Association to order. Just in case you haven't gotten enough of me during the conference, to introduce myself, I am Dan Tell, president of the Great Lakes Planetarium Association. You'll be hearing from all of the present members of the executive committee today and some remotely. We're going to step you through the latest business that has been going on for the organization. As I mentioned at the new member orientation, and many of you have probably heard before, this business meeting is our one IRS required duty to maintain our incorporation as a nonprofit. So I thank you very much for your attendance. And spiritually, this is also everybody's chance to have their involvement and say in the organization as a member of GLPA, especially this year, which is an election year. So you will be deciding the next round of leadership for the organization. The first duty of any business meeting structurally is the reading and approval of the minutes from the last business meeting. However, as those of you familiar with the operation may be aware, someone may move to dispense with the reading of minutes and approve them. These minutes were published in the winter newsletter last year. Does anyone have any motions related to the reading of the minutes?
I move to go without reading them and just approve them.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Anna has a motion on the floor. Michael McConville has a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed who want me to sit up here and read the minutes for several minutes? All right, the motion carries. Thank you very much. And just in case you did not read the winter newsletter from last year, currently the site is under redesign. There'll be more about that later. It was available in the winter newsletter, which will be accessible again very soon. As I mentioned, this year is an election year. This is also the first year we are trying an all-electronic election because although we have a strong GLPA attendance at this conference, about half the delegates here are members of GLPA, we still want to make sure that we have more absentees than usual, and so basically everybody had a chance to vote. We confirmed from our bylaws that we are not required to hold a paper election, so we did do an all-virtual election. So this is important. Everyone should have received an email earlier this week that looks like it comes from Mark Percy and says it comes from electionrunner.com, and it looks like this. And the part I'm not showing you below is your unique voter ID and login. If you did not get this email, you need to go to the back table and get some help. If you think you didn't get this email, check your spam filter just in case, but everyone should have gotten this email. This is how you will all vote. The online election is open until 2 o'clock, at which point it will close and we will determine the winners of the election. So please check your email. Make sure you have this email. If you have not voted already, go vote. If you do not have this email, go to the back table. We will help you get a fresh copy and help you vote so that everyone's voice can be heard in the organization. When you click through, you will get linked to our Election Runner website that is running the election, and you will get to see your candidates for office. You will get to see the written statement that appeared in our election supplement in the newsletter. Because of the timing of this conference, we had to put that out in between newsletters. We have 4 elected offices that are open. We have the president-elect, so the person who will succeed Mark Percy after he succeeds me for the 6-year president-elect, past president term. We have secretary, a position for which we have no incumbent running. Tiffany Stone-Wolbright has served us as secretary for several years, is very busy with AUI and is handing the reins off. So we have 2 candidates for secretary. We have 2 candidates for treasurer. Once again, no incumbent for treasurer because our incredible treasurer got elected IPS president-elect. So you can't do those 2 jobs at the same time. So we have complete open slate for treasurer, and then we have inclusion and outreach officer, where we do have our incumbent and inaugural INO officer, Keith Davis, running against Sarah Schultz for this position that is focused on how we make GLPA a more diverse, inclusive, welcoming, and accessible organization, as well as how we get the word about GLPA out to the community. Rather than just me stand up here and talk about the election, we want to give each of our candidates for office just a minute or so to make a little statement about themselves. So I would like to invite our candidates for president-elect up to the stage if Mike Smale and Paulette are in the room. And they can fight each other for who gets to get on stage first. Wrestle, wrestle. Yeah. I would like to note, this is a screenshot of my actual election page. I don't know who to vote for, so this is deciding it for me. What? Uh-oh. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, you give them that mic. I'll fix this one.
All right. Hello, everybody. Check, check. There you go. Check. Okay. All right. Hello. Male professional microphone user. Work at a planetarium in Chicago. And if we haven't met yet, I'd love the chance to get to know you, talk a little bit more during the rest of the conference. Learn a little bit more about who you are, what you do, what planetarium you work in, etc.
The mic needs to be closer to your mouth.
Closer to my mouth. All right. Yeah. Again, consummate professionals. All right. Absolutely honored to stand for president of the world's oldest professional planetarium association. Looking around the room, around the conference, the presentations the past few days, I'm completely floored by just how strong our region is. And it's all of us. It's each and every one of us that makes GLPA who we are together. You know, we're all in our own places. We're all, wearing different uniforms, but we're playing the same game. So we're here for each other. We work together. We lift each other up. We collaborate. We grow individually and together as an organization. And looking ahead, like Dan said, make sure you vote by 2 o'clock. But I humbly hope to be able to represent all 187 of you as the next president-elect of the Great Lakes Planetarium Association. Thank you so much.
All right, hello everyone. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Paulette Epstein. I am the Director of Science and Theater's staff astronomer at the Michigan Science Center, and I am also a NASA Solar System Ambassador, so I volunteer in my spare time, which is, yeah. I'm also the membership chair for GLPA right now, so I have talked to a lot of you folks about membership and all of that. I apologize, our membership site is down right now, but we'll get to that during the conference stuff. So I want to address all of you guys and talk about, I love that Smail talked about everybody who is in the room, and I am excited to continue to drive forward with everybody who's here, and we've done some amazing work in the Great Lakes Planetarium Association. But I also look around and I see a lot of people not in the room. And one of the things that I want to do as president is really drive the diversity, the inclusion of our organization. We have done it so well for so many years. We've continued to push forward. There are a lot of people who are still not here because they don't feel like they can be part of this. So one of the things I want to do as president is make them feel welcome, make them feel included, and seek out individuals who should be in the room with us to bring in those diverse ideas and to continue to make our organization strong in the future. So I hope that you vote for me.
And it's really great. We have a choice between only like 2 excellent candidates for every office in this organization. So with that, I would like to move on to secretary. Our 2 candidates for secretary, if you'd like to come up, are Sally Brummel and Heidi Westrick. I almost said your old name.
Hi, everybody. I am Sally Brummel. I'm the planetarium manager at the Bell Museum at the University of Minnesota. I began my planetarium career in 2000, which I just realized this week is half of my life ago. I began it in the MAPS region, and I was there for a few years, but I did get the opportunity when I was there to come to a GLPA. It was the one in 2003, and I knew it was something special. Nothing negative to say about MAPS, it was fantastic, but to be welcomed by such warm and friendly professionals at that conference when I was still very young was just an incredible privilege for me. And I'm grateful that I eventually made it to the GLPA region so I can be a member here, living in the region, even though I do also appreciate you don't have to be in one of the states to be a member of this organization, and that's an example of the professionalism. So that's what I've seen throughout the years is this consistent level of being professional, running an organization, and knowing what works well and keeping that consistent, but then also seeing where there are things to work on and improve and come up with new and innovative ways to bring all of these people here in the room, here not in the room, together. And I would be very proud to serve you as part of the executive committee. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. If you don't know me, I'm Heidi Westrick. I run the Ritter Planetarium in Toledo, Ohio. I have been part of this community for quite a while now and have been graciously accepted in and made stronger by everyone who's sitting in this room. Everyone who's sitting in this room, and I want to give back to even more to an organization and help to drive it to a better place, and doing so hopefully help us to grow into an even better and stronger organization under whoever you choose to be president and anyone else in the future. Thank you.
All right, thank you for our candidates for secretary. Then that brings us to our candidates for treasurer, who are Steve Crawford and Katie Downing. If you would like to join us up on the stage.
Hello, I am Katie Downing. I am the Planetarium and Programming Coordinator at Lake Erie Nature and Science Center, which is on the west side of Cleveland. Better than the east side. And I have been at my planetarium for 11 years now, and I have been coming to GLPA conferences for the last 9 years. And I feel like I have stolen so much information and so many new ideas from all of you in this room and those not in the room that I feel very honored to be asked to give back to the organization. So I'm excited to even be thought of for this position as treasurer. And I want to thank all of you for everything that you do here in GLPA, and I hope that I can give back to you.
Thank you, Katie. And
good afternoon. My name's Steve Crawford. I work at the Kalamazoo Valley Museum in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and also currently the development chair for GLPA, and I am also honored to have been asked to run for treasurer. I don't know. Everybody has said so many great things about GLPA. What more can you say? It's a great organization to be part of, and really important for my professional and personal development, and just want to keep giving back to the organization in any way that I can. So, thanks everybody.
awesome, thank you, Steve. Our final office is Outreach and Inclusion Officer, so I'll invite up Keith Davis. Sarah Schultz is the other candidate running for this office, who you might know did not get to join us at the conference because her husband broke his leg, unfortunately. And when someone mentioned that to me, I said, oh yeah, I guess that would keep you from attending the conference. So Keith will join us. However, generously, Sarah's students have agreed to represent her. So I'll pass it to Keith first.
Hi, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Keith Davis. I am your Inclusion and Outreach Chair or Officer currently. This is a new position, as he mentioned, and part of the duties were from the IPS representative that used to be an elected position. That's no longer because of the restructuring. But also, I think the whole community at every scale, all the way down to ourselves, up to IPS, to the rest of the country, is talking about a lot of concerns regarding how do we make sure, how do we look at the world, look at the structures that we're building in our organizations, and make sure that we don't accidentally build structures that keep people out, right? So there's more than actively trying to work to include. It's also looking at what we are already doing that feels quote unquote normal to us, and asking the question, is it normal to others? So I've been trying to do a lot of work behind the scenes, particularly around conferences, to make sure the conference chairs have the advice that they need in order to make sure that they're making it easier for people with different backgrounds to attend. I'll share one really quick story. I didn't tell her I was going to do this, but hopefully she'll forgive me. We were talking about some of these things, and I was having a conversation with Danny LeBlanc on the phone. And she's IPS EDI co-chair, so I coordinated with her a lot. At one point, I said, when Mark Percy was planning the conference last year, he threw a question out to me and said, hey, can you help me with language around X, right? And I thought, oh, yes, of course I can. I know things. And I started to type a response, and I thought, wait, I know things, but I don't know everything. So let me go do some reading, and I found some really, really good resources that I shared with him. I'll actually share some of those with you, because I think it's helpful for all of us to know these things. But when I mentioned that to Danny, she was like, that's why you're good at this. So I think that's one of the things I try to bring is learn first, act second. Speaking can be an action, but speak only when that's the right action, right? So that's the approach that I like to take, and hopefully you've seen some of that in the conference now, and we'll see that in the future. So as much as I love Sarah, I would be perfectly happy for her to win too. Again, I'm happy to run for office again, so thanks a lot.
Thank you, Keith. And now we'll have MJ and Emily representing Sarah Schultz.
All right. Hello. We are not Sarah Schultz, but we are her lovely undergraduate students, and she has written a short speech that she would like us to read. So just imagine Sarah and not two students. Thank you. I am honored to be running for the position of Inclusion and Outreach Officer as a part of the Great Lakes Planetarium Association Executive Committee. I have been involved with GLPA for almost a decade now, and have been looking for ways to help give back. GLPA has been an extended family for me, and I've gained so much from the experience and the experiences of others over the years. Now that I no longer consider myself to be a newbie, I'd like to return that favor.
Outreach is equally important in this role so that we can inspire individuals who may not normally see themselves as having something to contribute to science and/or the planetarium field. By focusing on the strengths and interests of individuals, we can bring unique perspectives and skill sets to the planetarium. Reaching out and bringing all the voices to the discussion is the key to a vibrant, strong, and thriving planetarium community overall, and GLPA specifically. If we want to create programming and experiences that serve everyone, we must include everyone. As someone who deeply values relationships, I would love to serve as the Inclusion and Outreach Officer to build strong relationships with other members and help newer members feel welcomed, heard, and supported. Fostering an environment built upon a foundation of mutual respect, decency, and inclusion that benefits us all, and I would be honored to work alongside others and make it not only a priority, but a reality.
Her experience with inclusion and outreach stems mostly from her work with undergraduate students, much like us. As Sarah's speaking, I've worked tirelessly to make the MSUM Planetarium an open and inclusive environment. Students have come to find working for me in the planetarium a safe space to be creative and celebrate their individuality. I'm committed to building a team with a variety of skills, backgrounds, and views. I realize that the importance of inclusivity is the success of the planetarium as well as the individuals involved. With diverse voices, we can improve the reach and quality of our planetarium program, as well as the experiences of the team and all who visit us. Thank you.
All right, thank you, MJ and Emily. So with that, you now have up to, like an hour and 20 minutes to decide exactly who you're going to vote for. But I, for myself, am going to take a minute to vote and hand things over to our treasurer, Shannon Schmall.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I am here to talk about the money. Woot. All right. All right, so these are just an overview. We do this every time so everybody is aware of what our financial year is and so on. We do have a fiscal year that runs April 1st to March 31st. This is something we chose in order to match up and make it easier with conferences so that we're not spending money across fiscal years for each conference. Our taxes are due on August 15th of each year. So all the information is with our accountant. So we do have a professional accountant who prepares all of that for us and make sure that we have everything good to go. So thank you to Hope McGinnis, who's our accountant. She is great. We do also carry two different types of insurance, so a general liability insurance and a directors and officers liability insurance that gets renewed each year, so that is in the process of being renewed right now. And we do maintain a checking account, a PayPal account, and now a savings account. And I will get to that. This is something new this year, and you will see why, and it will be evolving with time. We've had many other accounts in the past, like a gift shop account, other ones that I'm going to forget because they all closed before I got here, so I don't have to deal with them. But our main ones are a checking and a PayPal. Okay, so here are our current account balances, Image Bank, and so on. So we have this split up on the left-hand side with totals of all accounts that we have based off of the mid-year of our fiscal year and then the start and end of each one. And so our fiscal year is always going to be, so right now, even though we are still in 2023, this is fiscal year 2024, because we will end in 2024. So you will see that here we were at the mid-year, so this is when we met with exec a few months ago, and then this is where we are around right now. This is where we were around the conference, and this is where we were around a couple months ago. So it does look like our total funds have gone up, and that is true, but this is slightly more complicated, and you'll notice why in that we have this new savings account over here where that is a bulk or a very large chunk of our money now. In general right now, we have been looking for ways to support GLPA and invest in the organization, and so we have been trying to spend down some of the surplus that we had been building up for many, many years because we should be taking those funds and giving it back. And so there will be a lot of projects that you will hear about related to that. So, and again, I will talk about that savings account in just a bit. Here are our historical and revenue. So most of our revenue comes from the conference, almost 90% of it. We do also have some membership and advertisement that contributes to our revenue. And again, this fiscal 23 year bump, it's not quite accurate. It is complicated, more complicated than usual. And then here are our expenses. Again, most of our expenses are the conference, about 81%. In the past, if you've been to many of these meetings, you'll have seen that we also had an other category that was very large. And almost all of those things were related to technology. So we have now split technology out as its own category. So this includes things like our website fees and web hosting and other things that you will hear about from Steve Berkland as our technology chair. We also have expenses related to the executive committee and what we have in order to meet and our insurance and so on. PayPal fees, which is the cost of doing business, and then publication fees to get the newsletter out there to everybody. These are our conference versus and membership revenue. So you can see our membership revenue over there on the right-hand side. This is our conference, so this was from Buffalo over here on the left. You will see that this does look like the expenses from the conference are much higher than the revenue, but this also includes things that are not directly related to the conference. So this includes state meetings, any travel that is involved in order to get reviews done on the conference site or visits. And so just know that this is often much more, it's not straightforward. It's not just money in and money out for the conference. There are other expenses that get categorized under conference as well. Okay. Now, this is the big thing, and this is why we have a savings account at the moment, and why it looks like we had a lot of revenue this year, because we did. So Betty Wasilick was a planetarian. I'll ask who in this room knew Betty. Raise your hand. Okay, a lot of you knew Betty. Betty was a planetarian. I believe she was primarily in the MAPS region, and she passed away in April of 2022, so just over a year ago. And as part of her estate, she left a good chunk of money to GLPA and one of the other regionals. I don't remember exactly which one. And we thought, oh, that was very kind, and we didn't know how much this was going to be until I got the check in January, and it was $72,000. And we have more coming. Like another couple thousand sometime next month. They found another account that they didn't realize they hadn't closed yet, and so they're distributing that now as well. So we expect to have just under $75,000 from her estate coming our way. And I did hear from the executor of her will, who is taking care of all of this, that she would, Betty wanted to make sure that she could support planetarians in attending conferences and doing the work that they do, whatever that may be. And so what the exec committee, I'm getting confused between executive committee and board. What the executive committee has decided right now is I've put it into a savings account so I don't accidentally spend it, and I wouldn't, because we have plenty of funds there. But it's in its own separate savings account, so we know exactly what the funds are and where they came from. And we are looking into building an endowment, and we are calling it that. I want to be clear that some of the terminology might not exactly be what everyone thinks of as an endowment. But overall, we want to put it into a very high yield savings account, like a certificate of deposit, and use the returns on that account to go directly into scholarships for conferences or other grant programs for GLPA. So what this would do is not only provide those scholarships to people to come to our conferences or use those grants in any way that they might need, so like our childcare grants and so on, but those funds are generally built into the conference budget. These would be taken out of the conference budget and therefore make the conference cheaper for everybody in the long run as well. So this would make the conference more accessible to everybody. So this is the current plan with those funds. Like I said, we got this check in January. We are investigating the best way. I am going to go back and have coffee with my folks at MSU to be like, hey, you make endowments, help me figure this out. So we're working on investigating this right now to make sure we take the best course of action. But this is the current plans on how we'd like to do this. So future treasurer, have fun. But I do want to make sure that we recognize Betty and the incredibly generous contribution that she has given to us. Let's give her a round of applause, please. And I'm going to say one more thing, Jeannie, and then I'll get to you. I do want to also say we will make sure that we make sure we have Betty's name prominently discussed at every GLPA so we can continue to honor her and this amazing gift that she has given us. All right, Jeannie.
I just wonder if she has family.
So the question is, does Betty have family? And others, I'm sure, in this room would know much better than me, so if you do, please raise your hand. But my understanding is she did not. So she chose planetarians as her family. And so that is why we have this. Yes. Any other questions? Yes, Ken. Do we need to move to accept the treasury? No, we don't need to do that. All right, that's my report.
Okay, thank you very much. And yeah, we are incredibly grateful to Betty for this donation. Obviously, yeah, we want to use it to meaningfully help make conferences more affordable to planetarians and make it something that we build up. One other thing we've also discussed in exec, which again, this will be the problem for everyone who comes after us, is it might even make sense to create like a 501c3 foundation that manages that funds, which would then allow more people to donate to it with tax benefits. Because currently we're a 501c6, so like don't donate money to us, it doesn't help you on your taxes. We would like to make it helpful in the future. So, but yeah, incredibly thankful to Betty for this donation and something I really look forward to the organization using to grow our organization and grow the profession. For the President's Report, I don't have a lot of meat. The main thing is actually a leftover from last year. There is, although it's only $100, the $100 subsidy we provide for state meetings. We voted to add an extra $100 subsidy for each state this year. Because this is a summer conference, we want to encourage everyone to get together. So if you would like to hold a fall state meeting, in addition to the usual spring state meeting, there are some extra funds from GLPA for that. Since also we were, I'll get to that in a sec. We were asked to do some of our awards at our business meeting to keep the conference on time. So we didn't do it yesterday at lunch. We will have a couple awards for the banquet tonight, but for our fellow awards, we were asked to do them at our business meeting. So I would like to take a few minutes to recognize some additional new fellows for the Great Lakes Planetarium Association. The Fellow Award recognizes members of the organization with either 5 years of consecutive membership in the organization and significant service to the organization. This can include serving on the executive committee, helping to host a conference, or just bringing like amazing material to the conferences through your presentations, helping the industry in some way. We really want to recognize those people who are making just stunning contributions to our field. Or we also recognize members who have 10 years of service in the organization and have still served the organization in some way. We do want to recognize people who are doing something and making contributions. And of course, everyone is doing something, but you know, we do recognize those that we see. So to start, I just have a stack here. The first one, unfortunately, will be a virtual award, so perhaps someone from this individual's facility can come and accept it for them. But we would like to recognize Steve Birkland as a fellow of the Great Lakes Planetarium Association. Since getting involved, Steve served a term as treasurer, and that was significant as it was our transition in treasury away from longtime treasurer Sherry Adams. So he helped get it all set up for Shannon, and he served as our technology chair. And yeah, he does all kinds of incredible work for the organization. So our thanks to Steve Birkland. Our next award is going to kind of have the same problem. To recognize another incredible person in our field, someone who is eager to serve GLPA, has helped us with many things, and is also just an incredible educator and planetarian and icon in astronomy education in our field. We would like to recognize Sarah Schultz as a fellow of the Great Lakes Planetarium Association. And so maybe MJ or Emily can come grab this so you can take it home. Yes, again, as mentioned, Sarah has done incredible work. Perhaps will be an officer. We'll see how the election shakes out. Either way, I mean, she's going to be on GLPA exec one day, one way or another, in some office. She's an incredible figure in our field, and I am so thankful to know her. Our next award finally goes to somebody who is here in person. We would like to recognize planetarium educator and dedicated GLPA member who just cited this a few minutes ago, Sally Brummel from the Bell Museum. Like Sally said, she's been involved in GLPA for decades and has only ever gotten more involved. I'm really thankful to know her. Once again, an incredible planetarian. And I'm glad I get to give it to you in person. All right. And we have one final. Oh, and yeah, you've also been a WIMPS chair for the last couple of years, too. Yeah, all kinds of service. Our final fellow award for today goes to someone, again, who's been a member of the organization for a long time, has contributed some really good material, and especially has served in the role of Illinois State Chair for the last few years, Thomas Wilmich. We'd like to recognize you as fellow of the organization. Thank you for all that you do for the organization. I know you're all the way at the back. Inconvenient. All right, thank you so much for everything you've done for GLPA. And of course, we also recognized Michael McConville as a fellow yesterday, even though he's just one of the people like all the rest of us. It was just convenient yesterday. Like I said, we do have other awards in GLPA. We have some additional awards like our Mentor Award, Galileo Award, and Service Award. We will be handing out some additional awards at the banquet tonight. At least that's what I've been told by Adam, so hopefully that's how it's going to go. And as always, we welcome, encourage, and support award nominations from our members. That's how we hear about this. That's how we know, because we're only 12 people on exec. We can only see so much. So if you know someone in the field who has influenced you as a planetarian, given you resources, mentored you, taught you, or you've seen do incredible service to the organization or the profession, please submit award nominations. Those will be back up on our website when the new website rolls out. The last thing I want to mention, of course, well, this is like my last public role as president for many of you. Like, we'll still have some exec stuff that'll be going on, but very soon, like 9 months, but before the next conference, I'll be passing the presidency reins to Mark Percy, and I'll be rolling out of exec after a good long while. But what I want to always illustrate, of course, is we welcome involvement in this organization. We want as many voices and as many different voices and perspectives as possible. And so we do always want to encourage people to get involved. This link probably won't work right now. We'll get to more about what's going on with the website in a second. But you can verbally talk to people on exec because we are looking for new members on the executive committee. You might have noticed several of the candidates for office hold other positions on exec. We hold people to not hold two positions at once. So this means there's a high likelihood we will have some vacancies on exec. So some upcoming areas that we are going to need some help from new members if you want to have both a say in the organization and contribute, hopefully feel like you are paying back what the organization did for you, which is how I have always felt in my roles. We are likely to have, well, we're definitely going to have an opening in technology. As we get into the project Steve has been doing, Steve has also decided he wants to step away once these projects are complete and in motion. So anyone who would be interested in taking over a complete and fully functional website in the near future, we would like to welcome you to talk about the technology role. Paulette, as you have seen, is running for president-elect. Whether she wins or not, Paulette has served almost as long as me on exec in membership. We are switching to a new membership system as well, so it's the perfect time to not even bother training Paulette on the new system and just train somebody else. So if you like databases and you want to help our membership become members and support their memberships, we'd love to talk to you about serving in the membership chair role. And as you've seen, Steve Crawford, our current development chair, could be elected to office. And so development is the group that works with our sponsors to sort of help make the conference experience worthwhile for them as well, because we want this to be a mutually beneficial relationship where the sponsors are bringing great content and great resources for you to see, but we're also helping them reach the customers that they need. So if Steve is zapped out of the development chair, we would be looking for someone else to step into that role. And then, as always, we are always excited to, we want all of these committees, on these subcommittees on the executive committee to truly be committees. So, we have also our publications committee, we have our education committee. There's definitely one or two more that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head. Several more. Yeah, we have all these committees with GLPA. We welcome as much involvement and help, and the more hands helping with each committee, the lighter the load is on every member. So we welcome whatever help you can offer with whatever skills you can bring. And yeah, having, I've been on GLPA exec for a long time, but I did so because I feel like GLPA helped me so much as a planetarian. It helped me to see myself as someone who could do planetarian work as a career and not just as a job. It gave me tools, training, resources, and it gave me the professional connections, not just to learn as much as I had, but to put me where I am in my career. And ultimately, I have my whole family because of the connections GLPA made for me and helping me find opportunities. So I hope GLPA can do the same for every single person who's a member of the organization, truly make you feel like you have become the best planetarian you can be through the help we offer. And I think I will never repay the debts that I owe to GLPA, but I hope I've done enough in my service, and I hope others will feel inspired to give to the organization in the same way. So thank you for anyone who chooses to become involved. Questions for President going quick? Otherwise, we'll move on to the Secretary report, which should be quick because she has to take the notes.
Hello, everyone. Again, as Dan said, the report will be very quick. I just want to report on the electronic votes that the executive committee has reviewed between the minutes that were published in our last newsletter, which was from a meeting only 6 weeks ago, until now. Usually there's more ground to cover. So you'll see that these 3 votes were really targeted towards this conference. We wanted to make sure to support our videography team. Thank you all so much for your hard work. Please thank your nearest AV person because they've worked really, really hard. We also bumped up our scholarship opportunities from 10 scholarships that we normally offer during our GLPA regional conference to 15 to support the national conference. And then we also allocated funds for the dependent care grants. And I know that those were supported, but I think there's more details on that later. And then I just want to thank you guys all. This will, I think, be my last report to you guys, the members. GLPA has done so much for me. I echo Dan's sentiments. I would not be here without this organization. And I do want to make clear that in my mind, I always said I would serve no more than 2 terms as secretary if you allowed me to, and you did. So thank you for allowing me to serve you. But secretary is just such an amazing opportunity for new leaders to step in, understand the organization, and find ways to better the organization. So as I step down, as some guy yelled at me and demanded yesterday, be the shoulders. I will be the shoulders for GLPA moving forward. Never too busy for this organization. I will be looking for opportunities to lead more in the background as I step away from exec. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Tiffany. And just in case anyone is not aware, because we have not yet seen more than 1 or 2 utilizations of the Child and Dependent Care Grant, this is a grant GLPA provides for those who would experience financial hardship with a family member or other dependent who needs care while they're away. This can include children, anyone you define as your dependent. We want to make it easy to either potentially bring that person with you to the conference if you need, hire additional support or additional travel resources. So we do provide these grants for those who can use them for their child and dependent care. So do keep that in mind for future conferences. This is a resource to you. Next will be our Inclusion and Outreach Officer's report from Keith Davis.
Okay, so there is not a lot to say. I won't take a whole lot of time. In the last year or so, we've been spending a lot of time doing what we think of as invisible work, or what I think of as kind of invisible work. It's a lot of behind-the-scenes consulting. People come to me with questions. I do a little research and I hand them over. Sometimes it's reaching out. Sometimes it's emailing conference hosts asking if they've thought about specific things. Some of that is sensitive and we can't really talk a lot about it. So there's some of that stuff. Some of you know about it because I've had to talk to you about things, but there's a lot of that. One of the things we did is we helped modify the language of the Code of Conduct to apply to SFA. We started with IPS's version and then modified it. SFA being Stars for All, sorry. Someone did notice, I don't know who it was, but they did correctly call us out for not getting the news for the winter addition of the planetarian. That is simply a changeover in responsibilities as part of the new office. So if you notice that, we've corrected it. I did get news for the over to IPS for the summer edition, I think, and now I am on the correct email lists to actually ask me for that news. So that should happen better, so apologies for that. The one thing I want to make sure, that's in the wrong place, but I've been coordinating a lot with IPS, particularly around how do we respond to conferences. No. That, I think I missed a page, but that's okay. So I did a little, it took me about 10 minutes of reading to realize that there's a lot of accessibility concerns for people at conferences, even when you're ADA compliant. Some of that was brought up in my town hall last spring. We've done a little bit to try to correct that and try to make sure that people have some ability to ask for help without going directly to the host themselves. Please let me know if that was successful. We don't have as much control over this conference as we would have in a direct GLPA hosted conference in the future. So I really am not in a space of telling you, hey, look at how great we're doing. I'm standing here saying, hey, are we doing okay at all? So please come find me, or if you need to communicate anonymously, that's also acceptable. If you want to tell somebody else of something that was frustrated and they can pass it on to me, totally cool, happy to have that as well. One of the things that, so in that, I think it's actually useful to all of us to start thinking about this, because at conferences in particular, the ability to include everyone goes to it's fractal. It goes all the way down to the scale of each individual giving a presentation. So I wanted to share a few resources that I dug up when Mark was asking me about some things to do. So one of the ones that I would really encourage you to take a look at, and I believe this will be published somewhere, so these links will be available, but the Union of Concerned Scientists blog post, that one is very personal and very direct and will help you understand what it feels like to be at a conference if you are a person, whether you have sensory problems or differences in the ability to hear or see, or mobility concerns as well, and that's a big part of what we are thinking about as we move forward. So I thought that one was really helpful to me. If you are planning an event, and I think this is important not just for conferences, but for events that are open for the public as well, it can be really useful to reach out to, if you are at an organization that's large enough that has some assistance in ADA compliance, those people are useful to reach out to, but ADA can't be written in such a way that it applies to every possible option. So there are some really nice resources written by people that have had bad experiences at conferences. And so those are really the people we want to be listening to. We can't always reach out ourselves, but there are some good organizations. For instance, Cornell has a really nice accessibility checklist that you can kind of look over your facility and your plan and see if that works for people. And so those are the two that I wanted to highlight. There are a few others that I found, but I think those were the two. I do also want to remind everyone, I think Eric is here. Eric, are you here? No, there's many Erics. I'm sorry. I think he may have stepped out. He is with the IPS Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion group as well. And one of the things that they are doing is asking everyone to fill out the IPS Financial Equity Survey. Everybody in the room likes evidence, right? They are trying to gather evidence about your salaries to help you ask for more money. So it actually helps you, yes, worthy of applause, yes? So it actually helps you to fill this out. It is a short survey. There is a, what are those things called? QR code. They are working very hard with the institution that Eric Edelman works for to make sure that when data is aggregated and published, no individual is identifiable. So they do have resources it's not just them trying to figure it out. They do have resources they're working with. So hopefully, please don't worry about whether or not you might be identifiable to your employer if you fill out the survey. It is anonymous, and we have appropriate advisors to help us make sure that that data is released appropriately. Currently, I think Eric and one person at his university are literally the only two people that have access to it. I believe that Shannon will eventually have access to it once they get some actual technical concerns around who gets access to it solved, which I hope is just a testament to how seriously they're taking the need to keep it anonymous. You didn't give me a time limit, Dan. How much time do I have? Okay. So that's kind of what I had. There is one other issue I do want to raise, and I worked really hard to think about how I was going to raise this, and I think I'm just going to do it as a question to everyone to think about and then to approach me later. We are in a state that is writing laws that are bad for some of our members. And there are many states that are writing laws that are bad for many of our members. This issue was raised, many of you may know, when IPS selected Russia or was considering Russia for its meeting in 2020 or 20. What was it? 22 was supposed to be Russia, and of course that didn't happen for other complicated Russia reasons. But I worked with the co-chairs of the EDI group for IPS. We worked on writing some statements. We continued to want to think about how do you do more than just say, you know, we're super worried about you guys, but we're going to host our conference there anyway. But also knowing that things are bad in a lot of places in the US right now for LGBTQI people and others as well. There's a lot of things happening. And that it is hard to be in a place where you select a location and say, we are asking you to go there for this conference, even if it is dangerous to you. That is difficult. But also, there are fewer and fewer places where we can safely go. We also know that some people can't travel at all, so we don't want to take a location that's difficult legally and say, well, we're never going to be there because then the people from that region wouldn't be able to participate either, right? We also know there's a broad range of opinions on how to appropriately manage these issues. So what I want to do is I want to ask each one of you to try to self-reflect on what is the appropriate way to both select conference locations, think about how we support people that might not be welcomed or accepted or even legally safe in the locations that we are going to. And if you have some thoughts about it, tell me personally. There are ways I will have to come up. I think we will need to put some way of doing some anonymous communication with me as well. I apologize for not having that already worked out. I've been struggling a lot with how to address this issue for you, but I really do hope that you will consider thinking about what it might be like to see the announcement of a location and know that you might not be legally safe in that place, right? If that is not a thing that happens to you, that's great. But if it is not a thing that happens to you, try to imagine what it would feel like to be in that. Try to think about how we as an organization can help support those people even when we still may have to be in a place where it's not perfect, right? So I just felt like I needed to say something about that just to get it on the record and to have people start thinking about it. I don't want to just make a statement and then not do anything else, but there's in some ways not a lot we can do. So there is some attempt to find some local organizations that you might be able to donate with. We are struggling to figure out how to vet locations or vet smaller assistance organizations in regions that we don't live in. So if other people have advice on that as well, I'm trying to figure that out as well. So I don't have all the answers. But I'm reading and working, and I want to access the brain mass in the room to help me read and work and think, so please come talk to me about those issues. Yes?
Can you share the current process for conference selection, just to give us some background?
The current, well, Dan might answer this better, but my understanding of it, so the question was, can you share the current process for conference selection? I think it's not usually terribly competitive. It's a very difficult thing to host a conference. Actually, Dan, you're going to have to answer this because when there is competition, I don't know what the process is.
Yeah, in general, really, GLPA receives bids from prospective hosting sites. One of the jobs of our conference planning chair is trying to solicit bids, get people interested, And one of our goals as an organization is to make hosting easier for hosts. This is something I want everyone to keep in mind. We in GLPA are trying to take on more of the work as the organization to make hosting easier for the host. That is relevant. This year is, we were not really in the driver's seat, but keep that in mind as you observe other GLPAs in case you want to host in the future. Process for vetting, however, because it has not been terribly competitive, we've never had to formalize the process very much. That indeed does create some problems. And in fact, we were debating whether or not to accept the invitation to Tennessee because we knew some of the laws in this state do make some members of our organization unsafe legally. So we debated whether or not to accept this bid for probably about 2 years before finally sort of deciding that the benefits of a national conference and the lack of other bids pushed us in that direction. However, I think it is absolutely something that both us and IPS want to work on to formalize the process a little bit and basically figure out the balance of how do we balance all these factors and come up with answers to our questions. I think many of us know the United States is a complicated country. The states are complicated. There are a lot of legislatures out there that can pass all kinds of laws at any time, and any state or locality can become potentially unsafe to our members. And so, yeah, we don't have the answers, but we need help figuring them out together.
Yeah, and I don't want you to think that some of these issues we're concerned about are just related to the LGBTQ stuff. There are a lot of concerns from some medical friends of mine that I've talked to about hosting their own conferences in states where if someone arrives and is pregnant and something very difficult happens with the pregnancy, what decisions are doctors allowed to make in order to save them if something bad happens? So it's not just a niche issue. You know, that's 50%. That's women are more than 50% of the population, right? So I want to make sure that everyone knows that I am trying to think about all of you, and I'm not going to move forward with answers just to have an answer, but we are working on these things. So thanks a lot for all of your attention and time. Does anybody have any questions for me before I let it go? Okay, even if you don't vote for me, I still have almost a year left in my term, so I'm going to keep working really hard, so don't worry about that. All right, thanks.
Thank you, Keith. And of course, as Keith mentioned, Inclusion and Outreach is a new position that we created just 2 years ago. Well, we voted on 4 years ago, created 2 years ago to replace the IPS representative, since that no longer made sense with the IPS structure. Whether elected again or not, Keith has been our inaugural person in that role and has set some of the duties and function of that role. And so thank you so much, Keith, for your service in this capacity and your candor and thoughtfulness, especially as we have dealt with some of the planning and logistics for this conference and others. I'm so thankful to have you on the committee in this time. Just to reflect, there are 2 other officers on the officer chunk of exec. That would be the president-elect and the past president. Our president-elect's primary duties are the scholarship committee. So thank you to all of you who applied for the scholarship. We're so glad to have you here at the conference. And running the election. So Mark, I believe, is busy running the election, unless you want to come up and say anything.
If you have any trouble voting, come on back.
All right. And once again, I am so thankful that Mark is going to be our next president. He's awesome. I have gotten to know him even better working on exec together, and I am really excited for the next few years of GLPA with Mark at the helm. The other office on executive committee is the past president. In our case, that is Waylena McCulley. Unfortunately, she's not with us here at the conference today. I hope she'll watch this video later. We give to each of our past presidents a past president award recognizing their service. Since no one else from Starkle is here, we'll be sending that to Way. And yeah, I am just incredibly thankful. I mean, it is a true honor to have succeeded Way into the office of president. And I think in a lot of ways, we gave her the mentor award a couple years ago because I know so many of us feel like Waylena was the person who welcomed us into GLPA, told us what GLPA could do for our lives, and encouraged us to be part of GLPA leadership. I think the organization as it is today is in a lot of ways an organization that Way transformed. She made so many people feel welcome, encouraged so many people to be involved and take on these roles. And boy, I mean, she was our president when the pandemic hit. Like she had to suffer through the kind of the worst thing we've ever suffered as an organization, and many of us individually too. So I am so thankful we have Way in this organization, so thankful she was our president, so honored to be the person coming after her, and I can't wait to see her again. So thank you, Waylena, for all you did as our president and past president. Which also brings me to the downer of the meeting, the past president's duty is to recognize, to work with the historian to recognize our deceased members. Normally we would do this at the banquet. I haven't gotten confirmation if we'll be doing it tonight, so I do want to make sure our deceased members are honored. We are only aware of one member of GLPA who has passed in the last year, and that is David Parker. David Parker was one of the early secretary/treasurer role members of our organization back when those were one job, which I'm so glad they stopped being. He was in that role for a very long time. He really helped set the record keeping and standards of our organization. So yeah, we are sorry that he passed late last year. Before we do a moment of silence, is there anyone else who's aware of a significant planetarian who's passed?
Doris Farrar, I wrote an obituary for her in the newsletter. She died as early as this year.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Doris Farrar. Anyone else?
I'm looking up her name.
As in you're looking up someone who you know? Okay. All right.
Somebody who was in the field.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
If you need to move on, go ahead.
Well, I feel like we should give Anna just a second, right?
Sorry, I feel really bad. I'm not sure I'm going to find it.
Okay. Well, in that case, I would like us to, recognizing those members who passed away that we're aware of and any who were not, as well as all members of the planetarium community that we have lost over the years, I'd like us to just take a moment of silence and remember the incredible contributions of these individuals. Thank you very much, and thanks to all of those who have served in this field and done what we think is truly meaningful work, helping to expose people to the awe of the universe. This brings us to the end of our elected officers. GLPA's executive committee also consists of 6 appointed committee chairs, and the first who will be presenting to you will be our conference planning chair, Renee Kerrigan, who will be telling us about future conferences and more.
Thank you, Dan. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all from up here. I like to always start my report by saying thank you. So thank you to Adam and Jason and their team here at Bays Mountain who have planned this conference. I've really enjoyed spending time with all of the planetarians who are here. And that's what the conferences are all about, sharing with one another. So let's say they're not in the room, but we'll acknowledge a thank you to the hosts of this conference. I'd also like to thank the members of the GLPA Conference Planning Committee who have assisted with this conference. John Farish and Steve Crawford are doing the recording and streaming of the talks and also recording this business meeting right now. And worked really hard and stayed up really, really late the night before the talks to get all the AV set up, and then had to get up at 7:15 a.m. to be ready to stream those talks. So let's give them a big round of applause. Anna Green is our lovely conference photographer who comes all the way from Germany to document these conferences and share with us here. So let's thank Anna Green for taking the photos. Heidi Westrick is serves as GLPA's workshop coordinator and assisted with the workshops at this conference as well. Thank you, Heidi. April Witt, who I don't know if is in the room because she's a member of 3 regional associations. I asked her last night. She's the GLPA's paper coordinator and also helped coordinate papers for this conference. Thank you, April. Dan already covered this, but typically as part of my report, I hear from the state chairs and about when your meeting is going to be in the spring. But this year's a little complicated. Tom and I were chatting just before the meal started that normally we would be able to publish when the spring state meeting would be shortly after this fall conference. But so not only can you choose to meet in the fall this year as a state if you want to, but state chairs, you will need to maybe electronically coordinate with your state caucus to find out when your 2024 spring meeting will be, because we would often decide that in the fall, and we're not doing that this year. So that is a little thing that got missed maybe when we were thinking this through. So please, state chairs, take some thought to figuring out how you might determine when your spring meeting date will be in 2024, and then if you are going to meet this fall also. And then when you find that out, we will publish it on the GLPA website and put it in the newsletter as well. All right, so the GLPA conference in 2024, surprise, is going to be in Peoria, Illinois. That's where I'm from. I did put in a proposal, and I encouraged other people to put in proposals as well. But this is where we will be in 2024. The Peoria Riverfront Museum is in Peoria, Illinois. These are the conference dates, October 22nd to 26th, 2024. We have a 40-foot planetarium with about 90 flexible seats. And we have a Zeiss CKP for Starball. We have Digistar 7 and Sony laser projection system. And we have Laser Fantasy lasers. So that'll be fun and nice. And of course, we will host all of the lovely vendors in our planetarium. We also have a flat screen, giant screen theater that seats 200. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to comfortably host our sponsor sessions between the Planetarium Dome and our giant screen theater. We also have a very nice lobby that I think will be the opening reception and perhaps the banquet. And we are a multidisciplinary museum of art, science, and history, so our museum galleries will be open and hopefully enjoyed by the guests at this conference. We've selected the Hotel Pere Marquette, downtown Peoria, to be our conference hotel. The last time my museum hosted the GLPA conference was in 2013. Sheldon Schaefer, the great Sheldon Schaefer, was the lead on that. I was there. I remember many of you there, but Sheldon really was the person who organized it, and I assisted. And I don't know who recalls. Raise your hand if you recall what happened to the hotel. Like 2 weeks before the conference, the hotel that it was supposed to be in got closed for safety reasons. And so then you all had to go to 2 different hotels, and they were both on the other side of the river. They were in East Peoria, which is just it's not a far distance, but we had to have transportation because it was on the other side of the river. So this hotel is, it's just a 9-minute walk away from the museum on the same side of the river as the museum. It does have a little bit more expensive of a room rate. It's $179 room rate, and there's attached parking. But it's very beautiful. It's a historic hotel. It's about 100 years old, and has some. This is actually where the banquet was in 2013, but only the banquet, I think. So yes, it's about a 9 to 10 minute walk to the museum. We will provide transportation for those who have mobility needs, but I don't anticipate using much busing for this conference because most of it will be either at the museum or at the hotel, and we might have some transportation for some special excursions. And we're just really excited to host you in Peoria. Peoria is a lovely city. I love it. It's my home, and I'm excited to have you all come to Peoria and and share with each other in Peoria in 2024. Normally, I would give the microphone to the next year's host, so I just had to do it all this time. So now on with my report. Please consider hosting a GLPA conference. I'm glad somebody asked how GLPA conferences are accepted. So as a conference planning chair, it's my job to assist the host and try to take some of the burden away from conference hosts by reminding them things that need to happen and helping do them. And so we don't have a site yet beyond 2024. I would love to have a site to consider in the fall for 2025. If you are interested at all, and I know I have spoken to some of you who might be interested, but if you're interested, please reach out to me. I'll send you some documentation that has not just been developed by me, but by all the different people, Gary Tomlinson and the Beckstroms and the other folks who helped in this role before, but has a listing of sort of the requirements that are needed, and that will help you think about if you are able to host, if you're willing to accept it, and I will help you every step along the way. Finally, there's a few types of conference support that were mentioned by others, so I'll just remind you, please apply for this conference scholarship, and also consider, if you need it, the Child and Dependent Grant. We want to make sure that if you need help coming to the conferences, you get it. And GLPA always has a conference survey. Since this year's conference was not a GLPA conference, but a national conference, our conference survey is a little bit more about, this year is more about what you think about national conferences and a little more open-ended. We don't have as many specific questions about the talks or about the food or whatever. But I would really love you to please fill out this survey as a GLPA member to tell us what you think about national conferences and how much we should participate in them and that sort of thing. So you can scan this QR code, and I will also email this out to you, and it will be open for a month or so. So please do fill out the survey. Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Oh, Aaron.
How big of a dome should you expect if you want to host?
Oh, okay. How big of a dome should you have if you would like to host? Well, we've actually made it work for various sizes of planetariums. A GLPA conference has had in the past 5 years approximately, the high number in the past 5 years has been 180 attendees. There's been lower numbers around the pandemic time. So having a dome that can seat, 80 is nice, right? So that we can have rotating sessions. But if you recall, in Buffalo, those planetariums seated fewer, and we were able to make it work. So there's really actually not a dome size you have to have, as long as we can creatively figure out ways to accommodate around 180 people. We can make mobile planetariums work. Another thing is that conferences can sometimes be hosted largely in a hotel, and then you use the planetarium for evening sessions, and that's been done a lot. Yes?
Since you were talking about state meetings, Mike Murray, by the way, with the Bay City Delta College Planetarium. I wanted to make an announcement that Michigan will have a state meeting in the fall. It's going to be at our facility on Saturday, October 7th.
Okay.
And a first time ever, we usually have been doing state Digistar meetings too, because we have so many Digistar facilities, and we have people coming from all over the region. So whether you're in Michigan or not, anybody who wants to come, that'll be on Friday, October 6th. So we're going to put them together for the first time and see how that works out.
Great, thanks, thank you. So if you're in Michigan, there's a chance for, or not, if you're from anywhere, you can go to Mike's Place in Michigan in the fall for Digistar plus state meeting. Okay, thank you, that's my report. Fill out the survey.
Thank you, Renee. And just to say a quick word about the survey, to be completely candid about a couple of items, I do want to note, as I have referenced in some of my newsletter messages recently in the conference welcome, I think national conferences are a really amazing opportunity to bring together more planetarians and really energize these relationships and connections we make. But we really want to know what you think. We put out these conference surveys every year. Although you might not know it, we take the feedback we get very seriously. And just like I called every conference, it's like own experimental lab to try and figure out the best conference. We are always taking your feedback. So if you have opinions, we want to hear them, even if they are that you don't like national conferences. And one thing I do want to be candid about with this conference, a big piece of feedback we got from the other regions after Pleiades, we were very involved in planning Pleiades in 2017. We got the feedback, it felt like a GLPA conference that other regions were invited to. So we did intentionally take more of a back seat to this conference, and SEPA very much is sort of the lead behind this conference. We offered help wherever possible, but obviously it has run different than a GLPA conference. But I think you can also probably see GLPA members make up about half of the attendees of this conference. So we do want to figure out, if we're going to go forward with more nationals, how to balance the size of our organization, the steps we've taken to make our conferences more organized and structured, basically to meet the needs of our membership and what we bring to national conferences with the needs of the other organizations. And hopefully work together, all 7 of us, to create a sustainable structure. But we would love to have your input and feedback to help shape those talking points. So please do fill out that survey. And with that, I'm going to pass it on for membership to Paulette.
Thank you. So as Dan said, I am the membership chair, and as he also said before, this will be my last time as membership chair, no matter what happens with the election. I have been membership chair since 2016, so if you are interested in the membership chair position, please contact me. I've had a few folks reach out already, but please do so, because I want to see somebody else in this role. It's just to talk a little bit about what the membership chair does. We're basically the database manager for the organization. And so we hold on to all of the data and organize it in a way that is accessible and to whoever needs that data. So specifically our membership, as well as it's used for a lot of things for executive committee, used for a lot of things along the way. So I have been a database manager since 2016. I've actually been, I managed our database before that. And so please, if you are interested, reach out to me either via email or come talk to me at the conference. And I'm happy to talk a little more about the membership chair position. Since the pandemic, we have seen a decrease in our members. There's also something really weird that happened, and for those of you that have been to conferences for a long time, you know this already. But in 2017 and before, we required vendors and sponsors to be members. They got a free membership with their sponsorship, and we required it. After that time, we no longer required it. So our sponsors are not necessarily members anymore. We do have some sponsor members here, but they have chosen to be voting members of our organization. They are not required to be part of our organization. Part of the reason we did that was it was really hard to meet quorum. Because the vendors would all leave at some point because they weren't necessarily interested in voting and all of that. And so those that are interested in voting are here. They are full members of the organization. And so that's why we have that dip. So we're kind of leveling out on our members. And I do expect to see an increase, especially for next year when we have a conference back in sort of the heart of the region. We have regular members. We did see an uptick in student members this year. If you remember the data from last year, we didn't have any student members. So it's really great to see our student members back in. That was the same slide. We have a lot of folks that are in a permanent planetarium. We also have a lot of folks that don't have a planetarium at all. They are domeless. And then a large number that are portable or both. My organization is one of those that is both. Institution type, a very large chunk of museum, nature center, planetarium. Another large chunk of college and university. One of the things that we would like to see increase, and we are really open to how do we do this, is the school planetarium. So the K through 12 school planetariums, how do we get them more involved in the Great Lakes Planetarium Association and become members of the organization? So a lot of people only have a membership so that they can come to the conferences, and that's not what a GLPA membership is entirely for. It is also for the network, the communication between people, and the resources that we're able to provide. So if you know a school planetarian that is not part of our organization, I do invite everybody to talk to them about a membership for the Great Lakes Planetarium Association. It is only $20, so it is relatively inexpensive, and we want to see folks get involved. I know our conference is kind of at a hard time for K-12 teachers. It used to be during the in-service weekend. That is around that time of year, but we have sort of gone away from that, and so it's been a little trickier for our K-12 teachers to come to our conferences. We are also seeing a shift in the technology. We're seeing that we have more full dome planetariums than traditional planetariums, and I think that's something that we kind of expect to see as the technology continues to change. And actually this number was pulled before I went from traditional to full dome, so one more tick over. And then beyond the lakes is the largest region. So you don't have to be around a Great Lake to be a Great Lakes Planetarium Association member. So Beyond the Lakes is our largest region. And then, of course, Michigan is next. Ohio is close in there, or Michigan and Ohio are in there. We had some upticks in Ohio. That's great. Illinois, and then we have Indiana, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. So we do have members all over the world. So Anna is a great example of somebody who is here from Germany. And we want to continue to be a Great Lakes Planetarium Association that is welcoming to everybody. You don't just have to be around a Great Lake. There's Great Lakes everywhere, just not the Great Lakes. One last thing. So some of you have come up to me and said, I can't get into the membership database. And I can't either right now. So we have been, and this will be talked about a little more in Steve's recording that he has sent us, but we are in the process of changing over both our website and our membership database. So we have been switching over to MC Pro, so member clicks, and it's by Personify. We didn't intend to switch over as early as we did, but it happens, you know, as you're moving things forward. And so there will be a number of folks that I will reach out to after the conference who have approached me during the conference about memberships and stuff like that. And if you can't, we will be sending out an email to introduce you to the new program. We're trying to keep the same username that you had before for the new system. I can't make any promises, but we are trying to do that so that it will make it easier to transition from one to the other. And so you will be getting an email from us at some point in the relatively near future telling you that, hey, everything is ready in MC Pro. So we're still working on getting the website. We do have a temporary site right now that we have been working on. And then MC Pro will launch at about the same time as the new website. All right, that is my report. Any questions? Yes.
Is the breakdown that we see of our members not reflecting what's actually happening in the region? Why did you I'm just wondering, why did you identify teachers as not participating enough in GLPA? Are their actual numbers larger percentage-wise?
So there are tons of school planetariums in the state of Michigan. There are in the Detroit metro area about a dozen planetariums with high school teachers that do not participate in the Great Lakes Planetarium Association. So I know that there are a lot of school planetariums that are out there, and I've talked to some of them about that. So some of them have become members since then, but I know that is one place where there are a lot more folks than are coming to conferences, and then we are seeing coming as part of the organization. Yes.
Thank you. And I would agree too from Ohio. I'd agree too from Ohio because I run the craft groups. I'm the secretary for the craft group, and I have way more members than the amount that were up there. With that being said, is there something that then I could include, say, in our fall when we start back up, like some of you guys produced that I could maybe send to them, and with an encouragement, advertising kind of thing? And if so, would their membership start at that point and then go to that point again? Would be the idea, or is it based on the year?
So really great question. We do have some resources that we can give anyone who is hosting a state or smaller regional conference, absolutely. Their membership is kind of based on the year, although that might change with the new program and the new system. So in our previous system, it starts on, like, if you got your membership right now, your membership would start right now and go until the next conference time. And I think that's because of our fiscal year, I think. Yeah, I think it's fiscal year because tax year is a different time. So that is how it's set up right now. Steve and I are still working with a few things to see if the new program can do something like that. But yes.
I can't look up our bylaws right now because the website is down. But I think the membership term is in the bylaws.
Oh, perfect. So yes, it will be that way, and it'll stay that way. Thank you, Steve.
Yes.
All right, any more questions? Awesome.
Thank you, Paulette. To emphasize something about the membership term, you might have noticed if you are an existing member, you did not have to renew your membership for this year's conference because we are still in the membership period from last year's conference. There will not be a conference in the next membership period before the 2024 conference. So it would be really cool if you want to renew your membership this fall. I'm sure we'll send out reminders, but yes, memberships from last year will expire at the end of the fall. We have a grace period, but it'd be great for anyone to renew. And yes, we do. I mean, part of the whole reason GLPA was founded was to help high school planetarians understand to use and take advantage of their tools as best as possible. So yeah, if we are not meeting the needs of school planetarians who are in the region, we want to learn what they need from us and how we can grow and include them and meet the needs of every planetarian. And of course, yeah, this was, our membership and our website are big parts of how we host the conference. Since we're not hosting the conference, this what seemed like the best time to switch everything over. So yeah, we're hoping to have it all back up by end of summer. And now with the development report, Steve Crawford.
Hello again, everybody. I'll be pretty brief with the development report. So the first thing I want to do is, Paulette mentioned we have some sponsor members that are even here in this room right now. And as you all know, sponsors are a huge part of making these conferences accessible to everyone, bringing down the cost of attendance for the conferences. So if we could just take a minute to recognize them and just give them a round of applause. Thank you so much. All right, excellent. Conferences, though, or conference sponsorships are not the only way that our sponsors support GLPA. We also have newsletter ads, and we are looking into some other potential ways to get sponsor names out there and other avenues for supporting GLPA. I don't have a lot to say on that right now, but if anyone has any ideas or interest, interest in helping with that, please come and find me at some point or send me an email. Unfortunately, my contact information is not visible on the website right now because the website is not visible right now, but we'll figure something out. Yeah, it'll be up eventually. Dan, can you?
So, with the endowed funds, if you do like a CD, that's going to be like $3K a year. Do you envision that all going to sponsorships, or do you think it will help offset some costs and make things cheaper for some sponsors?
I unfortunately did not hear the first half of that.
Sorry, I'll try to speak louder. All right, so with the endowed funds from that 75K, so if you do a CD for that, you'll get maybe like 3K a year extra each year. So is that all going to go to scholarships and other initiatives like that, or do you think it will help offset some sponsorship funds and make things cheaper for vendors?
Oh, you know, I don't think that it's, yeah. Dan can answer this better.
It sort of will. The way the scholarship has worked, and I think Shannon dove into this a little bit, is we've been treating the scholarship as basically GLPA is paying that scholarship out of the conference. So, you know, to set the conference price, we add up all the expected sponsor revenue, all the expected delegate, and then, you know, divide all the expenses, and like that's how we figure that out. And so everything's distributed right now, and basically the idea is, yes, these scholarship funds from the endowment, by paying for the scholarship, therefore reduce the total cost of the conference that we have been paying out of the other revenues for now, ideally reducing the costs for everyone potentially. That said, you know, we do want to make sponsorship a mutually beneficial relationship, and where there is room to grow or add benefits, as well as to grow the conference through sponsorship, we don't want to close any of that off, but we do want to, yeah, use these funds basically in this kind of roundabout way of reducing this expense that we've actually been carrying all these years, make the conference cheaper in that roundabout way.
Yeah, I also want to say there are a lot of, you know, small, like planetariums that produce shows don't necessarily have the largest like sponsorship budgets. Yeah, I try to be very conscious of that, and we don't want to price out any, you know, someone that's trying to advertise that they're distributing a show. We're not trying to price people out. So we do try to have some, you know, lower cost entry for small show producers or other small businesses like that. It's a real balancing act. It's pretty difficult, but I would love to talk to you about that later. It'd be great. And I think that's all I have. I do have still this slide. This is unchanged from the previous business meeting. I do not have updated numbers right now. So not a lot to say on that.
Yeah, neither do we. Yeah. Thank you, Steve. And thank you for the work you do. You know, again, we want to attract sponsors, not just for making the conference affordable, but yeah, we want everyone to be able to know about the great, useful products out there for every purpose. And I keep saying, I want it to be mutually beneficial, where it's a happy little ecosystem. Our remaining committee reports have all been sent in virtually by members not in attendance. So hopefully my sound is routed through the sound system, John?
I believe you will have to hold the microphone to the laptop.
Okay. Let's hear from Jackie Bauman and Publications.
Hello, everyone at Stars for All. I'm sad I'm not there, but
Okay.
If you can give me 5 minutes, I'm gonna go get something that will.
Okay. In that case, Steve is going to go get a piece of equipment that will allow this to properly work right so you can hear from it right. Our remaining reports are publications, education, and technology.
Put up the voting link and just.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Well, there's no link for the voting, but yeah, I mean, you can. You should have an email that should look like this. Inside the email, you should have a link that takes you to this page. You have 5 minutes to decide, 5 minutes to shape the fate of this organization and change lives forever, including your own. No pressure, no big. It's all good. If I can steal a little bit then of Steve's technology thunder, as I mentioned, Steve will be stepping down once we complete the new website project. As Paulette has alluded to, we are upgrading both the website and our backend member database at the same time. Both these items were last basically replaced in like 2009, 2010. That's when we went to the current GLPA website, very much hand-developed by Tom Dobes at the time, as well as SfA2023 as our backend database, which was replacing using a Microsoft Access database that had become kind of unmanageable and old. That has subsequently happened to SfA2023 over the years. Combined with SfA2023, we went with it because it was a sort of an open source, community-based CRM product. Unfortunately, it has not continued with the same growth and development that, sadly, for-profit CRMs have. And basically, to better manage our membership tools and resources, that is why we have switched to a new product. And then, yeah, obviously, you know, the previous website was very customized for our needs, but we never quite got it all the way where we wanted to be with mobile responsiveness and making the website a useful tool during conferences, as now that everyone has a smartphone in their pocket. And so that is very specifically one of the areas we want the new website to grow and develop. We also want it to have both all the accessible content for our members, but we also want to have more content on there for non-members, both things that are useful for any planetarian, whether they're a member or not, but also hopefully things that attract new members to GLPA. And just make it feel like a worthwhile organization. We want to give away as much as we can and help everybody, whether they are a member or not. So yeah, stay tuned for all of that coming with the new website. I will also add a somewhat controversial talking point. During the executive committee meeting, one thing that has come up is we have the lowest membership fee of any of the planetarian professional organizations right now. We are $20. The next lowest is $25. The GLPA membership has not been raised in about 30 years. No one is making any decisions right now, and it actually will be you, the members, who have to make the decision. But we do just want to sort of float the idea of if there is any feeling of should membership go up by $5 or $10 to sort of account for inflation, help put some of the cost of some of these membership tools into the membership pool a little bit more or not. No one has any decisions. It merely has come up as a talking point, and this will be a problem for the next round of leaders. But
The membership and new website will also handle conference registration much better.
yes, everything will be built in. We will also have a credit card processor that is not PayPal. Unfortunately, the fees are basically the same, so it's like not like better from that end. It merely gets us away from this reliance on the PayPal ecosystem, which has been a, we don't want to be beholden to just this one company. Anything could happen. So yeah, it will move us away from the PayPal ecosystem and it'll allow more options in card processing. I'll give Steve a second to hook things up without me feedbacking. All right, should I try it again? Okay.
How the breakdown of the newsletter has come to you with the printed versus electronic. So as you can see on the thing, that printed is about 19% of all of our distribution of newsletter, and the electronic is 80%. And that is 157 members as of spring, the spring numbers from a few months ago when we had our spring meeting. So there's 157 members that are wanting the electronic version and 39 members wanting the printed version. And so this is, again, showing the trend of electronic is more favorable to the masses of GLPA than the printed version, but we still do have a demand on printed, even if it's a small minority. Then we have, this is the past years of the distribution. So from spring of 2021 to fall of 2022. And so as you can see, it's the electronic version tends the same way versus the printed version. And then we have lastly, the advertisers update. GLPA newsletter continues to attract advertisers and provide GLPA with a steady source of revenue. The past year saw the addition of one more advertiser, which is Geographics. And the result is that the newsletter currently has 9 advertisers, which occupy 10 pages of the newsletter, as you can see. And with the total revenue being $6,160. And that is pretty, like, we have added a half page from the fall meeting report that I gave. And overall, there isn't very many other differences other than, Emily and I are still doing the covers for the newsletter. And I have done 7, Emily has done 15. So even though Emily doesn't come to the conferences anymore, she's still active in helping us with the newsletter cover. And hopefully the proceedings will be out from the Buffalo conference. We've had a couple snags with getting those completed, so hopefully we'll be having those out to you all soon. And with that, that's the end of my report. So if you have any questions or anything, you need to contact me. My Gmail is my primary email. It's QNBAUGHMAN, so QN, my last name, @gmail.com. And look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Okay, thanks to Jackie for the video message for her report. Sorry it was now redundant with the things I said. So thanks to Jackie. She's been an incredible publications chair. As I mentioned, Bart is still doing our newsletter. Waylena has taken on some of the proceedings, although we are still working on the proceedings from the last conference, and we hope to have proceedings at least from GLPA members if you would like to submit your talk for this conference. Stepping into Peggy and the education report, let's roll, now that we have it all working, with this.
Greetings from Illinois to all my GLPA colleagues and all my planetarium colleagues from around the country and around the world. My name is Peggy Hernandez, and I am the current GLPA Education Chair. Know that the Education and Standards electronic Google slide deck is available for viewing and download on the GLPA website. It is a synthesis of current NGSS standards and teaching in the planetarium. Also currently underway is a deep look at all resources, including education-related resources available on the GLPA website, and subsequent reorganization for best usage and accessibility by our membership. For professional development, the GLPA PLC has had a successful inaugural year. Information is posted monthly on the GLPA website, on Domel, and various Facebook pages, along with shout-outs on the GLPA Dome's email list for members. We also support the PPA's Planetarian Zoom seminars, featuring planetarium-relevant speakers and topics for outstanding sessions. Join us at any and all of them. The GLPA Project Fund, formerly GLPA Grant Project, has approved 2 applicants, and their work is underway. Their results will benefit all members and will be available when completed. The application and information is on the GLPA website. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me at peggyhernandez@u-46.org. Thank you for coming today, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
All right, thank you, Peggy. And our final virtual report will be the technology report. Once again, sorry for some redundancy because I said some of the things Steve will say. I also want to express, when Steve and I were talking about this, he was like, oh yeah, I'll put on like a jumpsuit and pop out behind a server rack with a big wrench. I don't think he put that level of production into it, but please stay tuned.
Hello, GLPA. My name is Steve Berklin, and I'm your technology chair. For those of you new to the organization, I wanted to take a moment to go through what the Technology Committee does and then describe pretty much our big project we've been working on over the last several months. The Technology Committee oversees or works with several vendors, mostly pertaining to web vendors, and then also Google Workspace. We have a series of domain names that we reserved. Some of them are on hold for use in the future, and some just allow us to capture visitors to our website who are approaching it from other means. And then any organizational tools or equipment is managed by the Technology Committee, which at this moment is limited to streaming equipment, such as the equipment that's being used at the conference in order to stream it on to YouTube. But our big project that we've been working on is a new website. The Technology Committee has been working for about 7 months to essentially reframe content on our current site into a new format. And that content is being refocused into an audience, a more specific audience for our site, which is planetarians in the whole industry, both prospective and retired and also current planetarians, also GLPA members as a subset. We're updating the tone to be a friendly, professional, supportive tone. And the goal of the website is to professionally develop planetarians by inspiring them, informing them, and connecting them in new and engaging ways. So here's what our website is going to look like. This is one of the pages that's mostly complete. It's a dark theme. Some notable features on the site is that it will be mobile friendly, which means that if you open it on a cell phone or other small device, it will resize accordingly. There's also a blog on it, which is different than what we've had available in the past. So the newsletter is the main publication of our organization. The blog, we think, might be an effective way of doing some small, really focused articles with the intent of advertising our brand, or even just providing support materials for support content for members in the organization generally, rather than in a more quarterly format like through the newsletter. But what it means is that the content on the website will be updated more frequently, which will improve our search engine optimization and just encourage members and non-members to come to the website more frequently throughout the course of a year, rather than just during the annual conference. We also have an event calendar now, which will show all of the things going on for the organization, both conference-related and also the Zoom calls that we'll sometimes have with different committees, like the Education Committee. And you'll be able to link that calendar to your personal calendar, too. So we're pretty excited about that. And finally, there's we will be connecting these sign-on features between our website and the Personify member management system, so that signing into one allows you to sign into the other and gives a more seamless connection between those two tools. Now, in terms of when the site will be available, the design is nearly complete, and all that remains is taking out all of that placeholder content and putting in content that's relevant to GLPA. So what you'll see is probably in about 3 weeks, you'll get an email from Personify using our mass email system, our new mass email system, telling you, hey, the website's ready, come in and take a look. And we really hope that you enjoy it. If you have any questions, again, my name is Steve Berklin. Your best bet to contact me is to use the organizational email technology@glpa.org, and I'll be happy to answer any of your questions. I hope you have a great rest of the conference. Thanks, folks.
Thank you, Steve. And yeah, as mentioned, Steve will be stepping down. I got already a question of, would it be possible to help with the webmastering but not be the technology chair? The answer is yes. And thus the reciprocal is also true if you would be interested in helping to set the direction of technology for GLPA's future, but don't want to be the webmaster. You could talk to me about being tech chair, and yeah, the webmaster can absolutely be a subcommittee member of the technology committee. So do keep that in mind. This is true for all committees. They are supposed to be committees. You can have people on them to help you. With our reports concluded, we have the results from the election. I want to thank, first of all of our candidates for running. It was an incredible slate of wonderful people. Every single person, I tried to find time to tell everyone I was super excited to see everyone's name on the ballot, and I hope everyone wins. But that's not how elections work. So our Inclusion and Outreach Officer has been voted in as Sarah Schultz. So thank you, Keith, for your years of service and setting the initial tone. I mean, it's hard to compete against like a statement from students, right? But thank you, MJ and Emily, for helping Sarah when she couldn't be here. The treasurer has been elected as Katie Downing. Welcome on board. Really happy to have you join exec. You've done so much for the organization with these years. It'll be awesome for you to be on exec. Secretary will be Sally Brummel. Welcome on board exec once again. Someone great to have joining us. And transitioning while he is termed out of IPS will be President-elect Mike Smale. A strong hand for a strong organization. With that, I don't think we have any old business hanging from last year's meeting. Would anyone like to bring up any new business? Once, twice. No new business. Well then with that, once again, I would like to say, since this will be the last time I will be seeing many of you as president of the organization, it has been a really sincere honor to, to be in this role. Like I say, yeah, my first conference, GLPA showed me that I could be a planetarian as a career, and it has taught me so much. And I feel like sometimes we get a little like caught up in the like GLPA for GLPA's sake of it, but what we really are here for is to make every planetarian the best planetarian they can be and help everybody discover their true potential. And GLPA has done that for me and continues to do that for me. And thank you for letting me be your president. Yeah, thank you. And so with that, I am really excited that your next president, you'll see next year, will be Mark Percy. He is absolutely incredible. I've always admired him, and I've learned so much more working with him these last couple of years. And I'm really excited for where the organization will go under him, and then Mike Smale, and every single one of you who ever wants to step foot into GLPA leadership. I've learned so much about myself and this organization. It has helped me learn the management skills that have been useful in my own career. So there's no minimum membership term for service. Whenever you feel like you are ready to be part of your voice being heard in GLPA, get in on it. So thank you. And with that, we can accept a motion to adjourn if anyone has one.
Motion to adjourn.
All right. Second. So moved. Seconded. Privileged motion with no discussion. All in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. All opposed. That's what I thought. Thank you very much. You may now get ready for heading to the banquet in a few, like half an hour, I think. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for making GLPA the organization it is.